Alright, so let's look at one more example with dividing radicals. So here you'll notice that we don't just have a square root on the bottom. We have 1 minus the square root of 2. So in order to solve this, you have to do something that's called multiplying by a conjugate. It's very similar to what we've been doing, but we need to get that square root to cancel out. So we're going to multiply by, remember how we multiplied by what was on the bottom? We're still going to do that, but we're going to tweak it just a little bit. So we're going to change it, instead of multiplying by the exact same thing, we're going to change that sign. So instead of subtracting, it's now going to be adding. And that's the conjugate. So 1 plus square root of 2 is the conjugate of 1 minus square root of 2. And we're going to do that to the top as well. The exact same thing. Now we need to FOIL. So we're going to FOIL the top and we're going to FOIL the bottom. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times square root of 2 is positive square root of 2. 1 times square root of 2, positive square root of 2. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. Alright. Now we're going to FOIL the bottom as well. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times square root of 2 is square root of 2. 1 times negative square root of 2 is negative square root of 2. And negative square root of 2 times square root of 2 is negative 2. Add like terms and we'll be done. So on the top, 1 plus 2 is 3. Square root of 2 plus square root of 2 is going to be 2 square root of 2. On the bottom, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And then square root of 2 minus square root of 2 cancels. Alright, and just so it looks a little nicer, I'm going to go ahead and divide that negative 1 in. So 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. 2 square root of 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2 square root of 2. And that's your answer. Alright, let's look at graphing radicals. So what I want you to do is I want you to type this into your calculator. Square root of x minus 4 minus 2. Now make sure you close that parentheses. So you'll have square root of x minus 4, close that parentheses, minus 2. Your calculator will automatically open a parentheses, but you got to close it. Okay, so second graph, and let's look at our table. So x, y. Alright, so you should see that we have to start at 4, negative 2. 5 is negative 1. 6 is negative 0.6. 7 is negative 0.3. 8 is 0. And I'm going to go in and stop there. So I'm going to graph this. So 4, negative 2, 5, negative 1, 6, negative 0.6, 7, negative 0.3, and 8 is 0. So this is what your graph looks like. Okay? Now I'll tell you that the parent function for radicals starts at 0. So it's going to be around here. So what's the shift from our parent function to this one? You should see that we go to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go down 2. So it shifted right 4, and it shifted down 2. Now looking back at our equation, we have a 4 here, right? Now you can kind of think as the radicals as a set of parentheses. And remember when we were graphing parabolas, we always went the opposite direction. So if you have a negative 4 underneath this radical, you're actually going to go to the right 4. You're going to go to positive 4. This is going to show whatever's under the radical will be right or left in the opposite direction. So this is right or left in the opposite direction. Now what about down 2? So you should see in our equation, we have this negative 2 here. So anything outside of that radical that's added or subtracted is going to move it up or down. And it's whatever the sign is. So here it's a negative 2, so we went down to negative 2. Okay? Let's look at the next one. So before typing in our calculator, I want you to see and try and figure out where our graph is going to start. So inside our radical, we move which direction? Left or right? And it's opposite. So this is a positive 1, so we know we're going to go over to negative 1. Now outside, we're adding 2. And this is going to be up or down in the same direction. So we're actually going to go up 2. So we're going to go to the left 1 and up 2, and that's where we're going to make our first point. Okay, so we can use our calculator to find the rest. So go ahead and type that in. Okay. So we should have negative 1, 2, which makes sense. That was our starting point. 0, 0, 1, negative 0.8, 2, negative 1.5, 3, negative 2. I'm going to stop there. We could keep going and put more points. I'm just going to stop there. So I'll have 0, 0, 1, negative 0.8, 2, negative 1.5, and 3, negative 2. My graph's a little off with the drawing, but it's okay. Now something different about this graph is the negative 2 out in front. So if you compare it to our other graph, you'll notice what? First of all, it's flipped, right? That's what that negative does. And that 2 changes the steepness. See how this graph is going down faster than this graph went up? It's a lot steeper of a curve, right? So if we explain the transformation, it's steeper, it's flipped, we went left 1, and we went up